One of the things that's really great about how Dan approached Transformers is that it very much is using the original 80s cartoon series as the jumping off point for what he wants to do, in the same way that the X-Men 97 cartoon is using that nostalgia and then making it something that adults can enjoy as well.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Highs to approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. It gets hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Del Bush.
Dal.
Del.
W. Dal Bush.
If someone offered us $1 million to record an episode of this podcast and not yawn, we would not get $1 million.
Oh man, I would try real hard. I think I could probably clamp it down for $1 million.
Yeah, but clamping it down means you have to yawn. You're just trying to fight it.
Right. For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no version of this where I can't turn it off. And I see what you're doing.
I was fake yawning to try to get Dal to yawn. The irony of that is I don't have to. I mean, I do have to yawn. I just don't have to fake it.
Nope.
I had two different ways that I was thinking of starting this episode.
Yeah.
And the first one was going to be crime, Dal, it's everywhere.
Crime.
Rampant.
I guess.
Early this morning, I got an alert from Google that somebody was trying to get into Molly Jane's Challenger's email account. And they suspected fraud based on whatever criteria they suspect fraud.
I went into the alert and it was not nearly descriptive enough for me to figure out what they were trying to tell me.
Yeah.
And even their warning was a very low, okay, great. Thanks for warning me then.
Anyway, it was in fact Molly Jane.
Yeah, I figured.
She was trying to get into her email while her phone was dying.
Okay.
And it was still needed phone authentication or something.
But
the reason I was suspicious was at the same time, somebody was trying to get into the store's PayPal account.
Oh.
And PayPal's even hey, this isn't you. We know this isn't you. They don't have your passwords or anything.
Yeah.
But just know that somebody is trying and that they can't get in.
That's good.
Yeah. So it wasn't even a change your passwords or anything. It was just somebody's poking.
Right.
And since those things happened at the same time, I had assumed the worst.
Yeah, naturally. It's nice that in this one instance the worst didn't occur.
And then later in the day we got another, you were sent 2 cents by whatever company to get your attention.
Group. So I've mentioned before that since we are a Shopify storefront, we get 1 million different cold emails from different groups trying to sell us on their services.
It's true. We've counted. It is 1 million.
Each. They're not even a ton of overlap.
A lot. Well, I was going to say a lot of them are overlap.
Just looking at today, let me go to my trash because that's where they all are. I got emails from, let's see where we can go. Where did I put them? Well, I think because they were in my spam folder. When they're deleted, I think they're just actually deleted.
Ironically, I bought some spam a few weeks ago.
How was it?
And I made it, I think, earlier this week.
Yeah.
I haven't had spam in a long time. It was disgusting.
I had it when I was a kid. That was what we had instead of ham. And I remember it being good, but I also haven't had it since I was a child.
I also loved it when I was younger, but all it is now is salt.
Yeah.
It's just salt. It's horrible.
Here's one from 9:16 a.m. Dal space info. That's the subject line.
Hey, at least they got your first name right. That's rare.
Hi, Dal. I found Challengers Comics while researching unique books and literature brands. Okay. And felt compelled to reach out. We've collaborated with notable brands like Gymshark, Cernucci, Marble, Dirtia.
Did you say Marble with a B?
Or is it Dirty? Marble with a B but no E at the end, and Olaplex.
Oh, the way you'd say marble if you had, in fact, marbles in your mouth.
Yeah. For instance, with Marble, we helped in growing them to 75 million impressions with 200,000 plus followers and added 100,000 to Marble's orders within 16 weeks. Even Cristiano Ronaldo's girlfriend, Georgina Rodriguez, chose to endorse the brand because of their meteoric rise on TikTok. What does any of this have to do with a comic book shop in Chicago? Like, these are the things that you just send out blind to literally everyone with a Shopify store with information you can publicly scrape. Because I, at one point, left a review for someone with a Shopify app. Like, any of the apps that we work with. That stuff is now public-facing on Shopify site, which means anybody can just scrape that site and find a ton of stores, email addresses, names. And so
I think this just comes down to the fact that you still refuse to recognize that we are a brand.
We get so many of these, and it's emails that do not differentiate between, like, an individual bookstore that's selling someone else's books and a book manufacturer that is selling direct to the public. Like, this, none of this would help us. What Gymshark is doing will not help a comic book shop in Chicago. That's insane.
What
It's
about a
insane to
comic book
compare the
shark
two.
in Chicago?
So I bring this up because last night I got easily the best one of these I will ever get, and I want to read it out because the headline was enough, the subject line was enough to make me say, oh wow, someone actually kind of knows our business. Like, I'm not going to purchase their services, but it's cool that they at least have done the legwork that no one else is willing to do. So the headline is Challengers Comics Conversation, just Comics Conversation, versus Midtown Comics. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, it's a real David and Goliath thing, but sure, fine. And then I read the body of the email, which is fantastic. So again, the subject line, Challengers Comics Conversation versus Midtown Comics.
Let's get them.
And the email is, are you ranking for, in quotes, best superhero burger near me in your area? I noticed that Challengers Comics Conversation, again in quotes, has the best, in quotes, superhero burger, along with many other delicious dishes, but your restaurant is still not ranking for it, unlike, in quotes, Midtown Comics. As a marketing agency, we specialize in helping restaurants like yours get found online. By implementing local SEO and optimizing your presence on Google Maps and Google Business, we can increase foot traffic to your restaurant, increase your presence online, and boost your business. Dal, would being capitalized, you be interested in learning more? Regards, Alex, Marketing Manager, Socioboo Marketing Team, White Plains, New York, Westchester, 10601. I am 100% going to be emailing them back because I have to understand, like, where are you even getting superhero burger from?
May I ask how they are spelling superhero in that?
Superhero, all one word, capital S.
Okay.
Why do they think we serve a superhero burger? Why do they think we're a restaurant? Why do they think Midtown Comics is also a restaurant? Insane.
Why do
The whole
they
thing's
think
insane to me.
Midtown's superhero burger is better than ours?
Yeah, I mean,
We've
apparently.
put a lot of time in. Has Midtown ever sold their own cookbook?
Apparently, Midtown Comics is ranking for their superhero burger in a way that Challengers Comics Conversation is not. We have to do something about this. Why is our superhero burger going so unheralded? If only we had someone specializing in local SEO and optimizing our presence on Google Maps and Google Business, we could increase foot traffic to our restaurant.
I know I'm projecting here,
Yes.
but I kind of like their company name, Socioboo. Instead of sociopath, they're your socio friend. They're your socio best friend.
It's BU, not BOO, though.
Oh,
I know.
That just ruined it.
Yeah.
They could have been our Socioboo.
Yeah, that
Aw.
would be great. Yeah, I have to get back to Alex, the marketing manager at Socioboo Marketing Team, because everything about this is insane to me. Like, when I read this, I told you it felt like somebody plugged a few keywords into ChatGPT and it just went nuts. It just like made up a superhero burger and thought that was like, oh, Challengers Comic Shop, they're definitely a restaurant. I have to write a thing about restaurants now.
You realize that if we did have a superhero burger, that would make us a brand, and then we could take part in all these other companies'
Oh man, we should.
initiatives.
Oh no.
And do you understand the impressions we get?
I can't wait to find out what other famous European footballer they'll get the girlfriend of to want to promote us on TikTok.
It's obvious, isn't it?
Is it Messi?
No, Victoria Beckham.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
I also literally cannot name another
Another
football player's girlfriend.
You could, yeah, I mean, assume famous model.
Or, wife.
Assume famous model. Yeah,
I would have gone with Messi next for the record.
Yeah.
But I don't know what their situationship is.
Yeah, none of my business. Yeah, getting an email chiding us for our superhero burger not performing as well online as Midtown Comics is probably the best one of those cold emails I will ever get from a marketing company.
As opposed to the burger, which would be hot and juicy.
I hope so.
Well, at the start of this, before we were even recording,
Uh-huh.
I asked you what you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
And you said comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually kind of predictive.
Is it? Cool.
Because I was just talking last night and this morning to my good friend James Zark,
Mhm.
Hollywood storyboard artist and Challenger's t-shirt and, I guess, tote bag designer.
Yep.
James Zark.
Mhm.
Because he, while once upon a time wanted to have his own comics, he did a independent book called Donovan that he wrote and drew, and it was a gothy magic book.
Neat.
And we met through comics.
Mhm.
He's been a comics fan as long as I've known him. He's been out of the single issue comic book game for a very long time.
Mhm.
James Zark is roughly your age, slightly, he's like a year older.
Okay.
Can you guess what current comic book property got him back into going to his LCS monthly to pick up new issues of a series?
Transformers.
Transformers.
I think it's working for a lot of people. One of the things that's really great about how Dan approached Transformers is that it very much is using the original 80s cartoon series as the jumping off point for what he wants to do, in the same way that the X-Men 97 cartoon is using that nostalgia and then making it something that adults can enjoy as well. Like, it's the reason why Transformers is successful in a comic is the exact same reason why people have been incredibly excited about the new X-Men cartoon. Exact same dynamic.
I think what really works for Transformers is that you have expectations for one thing, but really there's more than meets the eye. And so
I don't
James,
understand that reference. Is that a GoBots thing?
what? Like,
From Gobotron, the classic transforming robots from Gobotron.
is that really where they're from?
It really is where they're from, yeah. This is why GoBots was not a successful brand.
Are you kidding?
At least Transformers called their planet Cybertron.
Gobotron is amazing, and now I'm way more into GoBots than I ever thought I would be.
Well, I think Tom Scioli did a comic series.
If
that
only-
you could probably
If
look
only
at.
they had a good noise when they transform.
I don't know. Yeah.
I believe it was GoBot noise, GoBot noise, GoBot noise.
Again, Tom Scioli question. I don't know.
So it was actually Luke Smarto who got James Zark into Transformers. He's like, you got to read this book.
Yeah.
So he did.
It's real
So
good.
James went to his LCS, which is House of Secrets in.
Local comic shop, by the way, for those who are not familiar with the.
Oh yeah, sorry, local comic shop, which is House of Secrets in the somewhere part of Hollywood in Los
Burbank or
Angeles.
something maybe.
Something, sure. And he wanted the new issue. They were sold out of the new issue.
The newest issue, like 8, or like the new issue 9 that comes out next week? 'Cause
Well-
we've already had people asking for the new issue, and it's like, that's not out yet.
I don't want to argue, but the new issue is always out. You mean you're saying the next issue?
I've had people call up asking for the new issue number 9, and it's like, that's not out
Yeah.
yet.
Well, let's just say 8.
Okay.
So it's because they were sold out. That's
Sure.
They can't be sold out of 9.
Unless they got it early and they were just selling it like monsters.
Well, so they didn't have it. And James had said to me, well, that's because they're always sold out of every comic because they're a very successful store. And I thought, that doesn't sound right. You don't sell out of everything if you're a very successful store.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they're successful, but that doesn't, being out of a book doesn't equate success.
No, you can sell out of 1 copy or 100 copies. Those are 2 different
Right.
things.
But that's not the moral of the story. He then went to a backup store, which is like a mile or so away,
Mhm.
Krusty Bunkers.
Okay.
the former Neil Adams store.
I never heard of it.
You never heard of Krusty Bunkers?
No.
Oh, it was Neil Adams opened that like right around the pandemic, and it was. You should look it up because from the get-go it had a reputation around it.
Oh no.
Well, the name fits.
Was the store hollow on the inside?
I think it was more crusty.
Okay.
But it is true that there were still dinosaurs roaming in it.
Cool.
Yeah. And not only did they not have the newest Transformers, he couldn't find any single issue comics,
Oh, okay.
which is rare because it is in fact his backup store.
Mm-hmm.
They usually don't have a high success rate for what he's looking for, but in the past they've had comics.
Sure.
Now they just had basically graphic novels. I didn't quiz him on if they had back issues or whatever.
Mm.
But so he did a lap, didn't see what he wanted, and he's going to leave. And the person at the store said, "Hey, were you looking for something?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way that often people who are looking for something and don't see it don't ask.
Right.
So it's the clerk's job to say, "Hey, do you want something?" And James is like, "Yeah, do you have any single issue comics?" And they said, "Oh, no, we've stopped carrying those."
Okay.
They're a graphic novel store now.
Interesting.
And
Do they have the Transformers trade?
I didn't ask because he already has those issues. He just wanted issues, I think, 10 and 11. That's what he's looking for.
Smart.
Smarto is who got him into it, yeah. So he was asking me if I'd heard anything about Krusty Bunkers specifically not carrying single issue comics, because that is a thing he can't wrap his head around.
Sure.
And then I had a long answer about how stores not carrying single issues are A, normal, B, happening more frequently, and C, possibly the future.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've talked about the idea of how much more profitable a store can be if you're not carrying single issue comics. How carrying single issue comics is like carrying produce. It goes bad. You end up having to throw a lot of it away, essentially. So ordering correctly on it is very, very difficult, especially when you're working at cross purposes with publishers and essentially trying to divine what your customers are going to want weeks or months in advance. Graphic novels, not as perishable.
Yeah, but it sounds like House of Secrets knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're sold out all the time. Like, that's amazing. Again,
which could honestly genuinely be the case, and more power to them.
Yeah, I mean, if they're able to do that, if you are able to order high numbers of everything and still sell out, like, God bless. Like,
I mean, that's ultimately
phenomenal.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
is selling out of everything.
Yeah, but on the other hand, more often it's stores not carrying specific titles because Marvel's inexplicably deciding to release a $20.99 miniseries weekly and making you order almost the entire thing before the first issue comes out.
But wait, Dal, it's not just $20.99. It's Annihilation $20.99.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to name it. They've done it a few times. But also, again, like, there's books that we order, 25 or 30 copies of for the shelf because we want people to try it out. Sometimes even higher if it's a book we're really excited about and we really think people are going to be into. And then there's books we order like 1 or 2 for the shelf. If you're ordering mostly 1s and 2s for the shelf, pretty much everything's going to sell out. Pretty much.
God, you better hope so.
And there's plenty of stores that do that, where the bulk of their single issue sales are subscribers, pre-orders. And then they'll get token copies for the shelf in case someone wanders in or a subscriber decides they want it at the last minute. But in general, they don't look at shelf sales as worth their time. And again, this gets back to the back issue thing, where it makes more sense to do things other than single issue comics because single issue comics are too perishable. I get it.
I don't think I've ever heard you describe single issue comics as perishable before, but it's so fitting. And it is.
It didn't used to be the case.
It is like produce.
Like, and again, we've both been selling comics long enough that we can remember the days where this was, the market was starting to shift over to graphic novels. But prior to that, it didn't matter if you sold out or not. You didn't want to sell out of everything because you would still need to sell that issue of X-Men for the next few years. And people would be coming in every month for the next few years, probably looking to fill in that part of their collection. So if you didn't sell out of X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, Batman, fine, bag it, mark it up, put it in the back issues. It will eventually sell. But then two kind of major things happened. One, the advent of graphic novels allowing people to jump into old series at a budget price whenever they want without having to track down individual issues. But then also how massive the market got, how many more titles were coming out, so that stores couldn't afford to keep a backstock of everything because not everything's going to sell. So many older series, and by older I just mean like 5 years ago, no one's ever going to want in back issues. No one's going to pay an inflated price for it, let alone even cover price for it.
Let alone even $1.99.
Yeah. Someone had come in recently, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but they were asking about Occupy Avengers. And I, honest to God, thought they were saying a different title wrong. Because I'm like, Occupy Avengers? What is that? And I looked it up, I'm like, oh my God, there was an Occupy Avengers series that came out. It was a Hawkeye book. I think David Walker maybe wrote it. And it was basically just after like Occupy Wall Street. Like it was just Marvel taking that and going, oh, we'll do like a kind of social activist Avengers book with Hawkeye because I guess he's our Green Arrow. Why not?
Sure.
And it
He's
ran
blonde, he shoots arrows out of a bow.
It ran like 8 or 9 issues, and it was like, wow, I definitely was working in a store when this was coming out and carried every issue.
This store.
And no one had asked about this in like over a decade. Like, this is insane.
I do vaguely remember it, but I also remember not reading it.
It's terrible. But yeah, just stuff like that. And that was published by Marvel, and it ran for, again, like 8 or 9 issues. And it featured like a character that's been in movies and TV shows. It was part of the Avengers brand. Like, this wasn't just some fly-by-night company that, released a comic and went out of business or, sold a couple hundred copies at a show. This was available in stores nationwide, worldwide. And I've already forgotten about it. And one person has asked about it in a decade. So yeah, why would you be carrying a ton of extra copies of Occupy Avengers to go in the back issues?
I don't think there's a human being alive who, if we randomly gave them a year from the last 10 years, that they could name even 75% of the titles that Marvel put out that year.
Yeah, there's no way.
Because there's always these miniseries or one-shots or annual crossovers that don't resonate.
No.
And even if they do, it's with a small amount of people and you don't remember.
Yeah, the way we stock graphic novels has changed kind of drastically in the last few years, because it used to be we would carry every Marvel and DC graphic novel and we'd probably restock them when they sold out. And now there's a bunch of Marvel books that we're not restocking once they sell off the New This Week shelf, and then plenty more, not plenty more, but a sizable amount that we're not even ordering for the shelves, because it's like, this miniseries didn't sell. Who's going to want this thing for like $18 a year from now? We've
even given up on a lot of the major characters' ongoing collected volumes.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton, but like there's definitely stuff that, like a lot of the Batman stuff that's not the current creative teams. It's just easy to say like, no, we're not going to restock that Detective Comics graphic novel. No one's going to care. And the second a title reboots, the previous series is dead in trade. Yeah. How many volumes of the New 52, or I guess let's say Rebirth Flash were there? Oh man, a lot, 20 or something. Yeah, a huge. I thought it was high teens, but it's a lot. Yeah. And how many of those do you reorder now? None. You know why? Because they never sell. Yeah, we probably have scattered volumes of some other ones. But yeah, like I definitely think about Amazing Spider-Man Beyond as a thing where it's like, oh, no one's ever going to ask for those ever. We had multiple copies of Safe Sex Volume 2 on the shelf for the longest time, but we never bothered to reorder number 1. Yeah, so since for the second time in like the last month we had a special order for it, I'm like, I guess we carry that book for the shelf again. Okay. It's the only way to sell twos, really. Sure. But I understand why we didn't want to carry it. But neither of these people, I don't think, bought a 2 or ordered a 2, so it's like, I guess they want to try it out. I hope they love it, because otherwise we're never going to sell that volume 2. Yeah. I hope one of them likes it enough to want the second half of the series. Because it's like we have 1 1 and 4 2s. No, I think we've got like 1 2 left. Oh, that's good then. Yeah. It's not as good as 0 2s, but correct.
I don't remember the name of the series, but it was an Image series about, God, it was kind of about jazz. It's like a jazz club in the bayou, maybe. And
Not deep cuts.
no.
Okay.
This is like 6-8 years ago.
Okay.
I can't remember if I believe the main character was queer. Might have been like a bouncer. I think she might have been a witch, or it might have been like a magical connotation. But I can't remember if it was written by T. Franklin.
I mean, maybe.
And now that T. Franklin is writing a new book coming out, I thought, oh, right. I haven't seen their name in quite a while.
T. Franklin did at least the first one, maybe the second one of the Harley Quinn animated series.
Okay, then maybe
with
they're
Max
not who I'm
Aaron,
thinking of. Then they're probably not who I'm thinking of.
I think.
But I mean, whatever that book was, I did enjoy it, but it only had 2, maybe 3 issues, and they're like, yeah, we can't finish this.
Let me see if there's. I don't know if there would be a collection then, but I'm gonna.
There's not a collection because it was only 2, maybe 3 issues. It never finished.
Juke Joint.
Yeah, who is it by?
T. Franklin.
Hey,
That's why I came up with it.
who drew it?
I don't know. Let's find out.
My guess would be Sanford Green.
Let's find out. I gotta scroll down a bit. Part of the Juke Joint series. Okay. It's not telling me. Let's see if I can. Yeah, this is a terrible site. I don't even know what Thrift Books. What is Thrift Books?
I don't know. Maybe that was at one point Image imprint or an offshoot. Are you saying that's the site?
That's the site.
Oh, no idea.
Juke Joint.
I'd say just go to
I have to narrow down my search a
Diamond,
little
but
bit.
there's too much logging in to do.
Goodreads. Aletha Martinez.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was
Yeah, I
it was
like
a
her.
5-issue series. 2 issues came out.
2. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
This was. Let's see if we can find out when.
Does it happen to have a solicitation? I want to see how badly I butchered this.
T. Franklin and Aletha E. Martinez team up for a timely horror series from the Deep South. Mahalia runs the hottest spot in all of 1950s New Orleans. The Juke Joint keeps the jazz popping, people bopping, and the women are to die for. There's only one rule: keep your hands to yourself. But some men think rules don't apply to them, and Mahalia and her coven of slain women enjoy reminding them that they most certainly do.
All right. I think
I think you did pretty good.
I did all right. I biffed
Hollywood
on
Reporter
Althea
had
Martinez.
a story on it back in 2018.
2018? Okay. That was 6 years ago.
This is running in Image Plus. Weirdly, in Image Plus, their catalog, the entry about T. Franklin's announcement at Image Expo incorrectly lists Juke Joint as a sequel to Bingo Love. Whoops.
Maybe there's some themes that carried over.
No, I mean, there's a creator that carried over, and that was about it. One creator.
Okay. Well, if you would have asked me about Occupy Avengers,
Mhm.
I would have gotten maybe the Hawkeye part, and that's all.
I genuinely had to go look it up because what this person was saying, I'm like, Occupy Avengers? Like, no. Is it a storyline? What is this? No, comic book. They ran for a better part of a year.
I'm the absolute worst at remembering or even hearing correctly manga titles when people ask for them.
I've had a few different times where some of it's because I've never heard it pronounced, so how I think it would be pronounced, and then how a fan is pronouncing it because they also haven't ever heard it pronounced. It's the thing where it feels like a game of telephone.
I was trying to think of one to really butcher, like a really simple one like Naruto, but I couldn't think of a way to really say it badly and still make it make sense.
The one that got me semi-recently was Oshinoko, which is Oshi, O-S-H-I, second word N-O, second word K-O.
I'm sorry, that's Oishinbo.
And that's what it sounded like because the person was saying it as Oshinoko. And I'm like, I'm sorry,
you're not
what is
paused.
this?
There's no pauses.
No pauses. Okay.
Like I would also.
And also, I'm not sure I don't know which of us has the emphasis right on the right syllables.
Well, what I've learned from Japanese pronunciation is that the immediate American pronunciation is always wrong.
Probably.
For example, when I could eat eggs,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite sushi was tamago, which is egg. And it's tamago like Tamagotchi.
Right.
But as an American, I'd say tamago.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the thing that I've, as someone who doesn't speak the language but has watched a lot of people speaking the language, it's usually like the first syllables where you put the emphasis, and then because like Americans always say Naruto, No, it's Naruto.
It's Kamen Rider.
It is Kamen Rider.
One of my favorites is the good friends of ours, local Japanese toy store, Nakama Toys.
Mhm.
The word is pronounced Nakama,
Mm.
but their store is Nakama.
Sure.
And they're like, look, we know it's Nakama. We're saying Nakama.
That's what makes it their brand.
Right.
That's why they
Exactly.
serve the best superhero burger in Chicago.
That's why we are Shalandras.
Uh-huh.
Shalandras, comiques, and convicts. It's really weird. I'm
Yeah.
tying it back into crime at the beginning.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we're done, right? So I could just like do the stand-up
Absolutely.
comedy thing of looping it to the
Yep,
back.
Good
and-
callback.
Thanks. I hope the person mowing their lawn does not come through.
Oh, maybe.
That is a weed whacker.
Mm-hmm.
I found out through you just yesterday that the Music Box is doing some renovations on their
Main auditorium.
main theater, and one of the things they're doing to raise money for it is sponsorships.
Yeah, you can sponsor a chair.
I don't know how many seats are in the main auditorium. I think
I
you
asked
guys-
somebody, I think somebody had said about 700, they thought.
So the idea of sponsoring a chair or park bench
Mhm.
or something where you have
A
your
brick.
yeah, exactly, a brick in a wall, a
Yeah.
plaque on a wall or something.
Sure.
Coincidentally, today, Joe Field announced the Flying Colors, I'm going to get it wrong, like Heroic Plan,
Okay.
because they are moving into a new location.
Mhm.
Their second ever location. They've been in this one since 1988,
Wow.
but the strip mall they're in is changing directions and not renewing their lease.
Yep.
So they had a long talk with Joe and Libby about they being themselves. Joe and
Right.
Libby amongst themselves had a long talk about the future of Flying Colors. Do you just retire? Do you give up? You're done?
What a lot of places have done, I know this isn't what you're talking about, but I'm going to use it as a quick jumping off point for an aside. What a lot of places have done is just shift to essentially online selling and conventions.
Yeah, eBay and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Sure.
if you've got a large enough back issue collection, if you've got enough vintage stuff, again, like just going back to the whole thing of like new comics aren't profitable, like trying to keep a store full of stuff and a staff and all the overhead that goes in with having a brick and mortar location. You eliminate that and you just start selling comics on eBay at conventions, on whatnot, on YouTube live shows, whatever. That can provide a living for somebody.
But do you still have subscribers?
Some places do.
How do they get their books?
Some places will still keep an active account with whoever they need to, Diamond, and continue to get books for their subscribers. Like sometimes it's for people who just have no interest in going someplace else. Like they want to keep supporting the same person they've always been with. Part of the experience for them in reading comics is getting them from that person. They don't want to find a new store. So if that person's willing to continue to get them their books, they'll just keep getting them. Like there were places that stores closed down and guys were just like, I'll just have them at my house and you can just come get them. And people would do that. Or like they'd go to a coffee shop and like they would bring all of the week's
I was
subscriptions
going to
with
make
them.
that joke of us loading up 2 carts with all of our subscriber boxes and heading up the block to Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean,
But we can't do that. Like the number of boxes we'd have to bring.
yeah, no, I know a store did that where they basically treated like the new release day as like a pop-up shop that they would just do somewhere.
Sure.
And that would sort of be it. I don't think that store did that long term. I don't think they ever intended to do it long term, but they did it. But anyway, so Joe and Libby.
So they decided they're going to look around. They found a spot they like. They have a new lease, and when they went into a little bit of detail, it was kind of eye-opening because then Joe was crowdsourcing ideas from other retailers
Mhm.
about how much they spent moving, opening a second location,
Sure, build
like
out all that
on
stuff.
everything except product.
Sure.
And I was, of course, in my head equating it to what we spent on Blue,
Mhm.
since that's a recent memory of
Yeah.
dollars and things.
Sure.
And the first thing I was shocked by was his lease
Mhm.
and how prohibitively expensive it would be if it was for us.
Yeah.
Like, I think we pay too much,
Yes.
but I think everyone thinks that.
Yeah, probably.
His is significantly higher. I don't know floor space.
Because that matters.
It does.
Yeah.
But I know how much their lease is and the length of their lease, so I know what they're paying
Sure.
per month roughly. But you know how when you crowdsource an answer, you get a lot of well-meaning but basic answers.
Mm-hmm.
For examples, it would be like, "Oh, you should buy a building." Like
Right.
it's that easy.
Sure.
And
Just people who have an expectation that your market is exactly like their market.
sure,
Without realizing, like, well, it's different if you're a rural store or a suburban store or an urban store. Like, all of these things have different options available to them, or options that are completely closed off to them.
well, Joe had pointed out that the buying a building in their area of Northern California is not a reasonable thing to do for a small business.
Sure.
Just because of the value, the perceived value of the property. And if their lease is anything of an indicator, I completely understand that.
Sure.
But anyway, we're not, the point is we're not talking specifically about what they're doing.
Okay.
We're talking generally about what they're doing is they opened up sponsorship.
Okay.
And they want it to be of some value, not just giving them money, but like you get your name on a scroll in the new place.
Okay.
You like comics are donated in your name. You could
Okay.
like things like that. Like you don't get tangible goods out of it
Sure.
because that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when we kickstarted the Rogues Gallery, we made sure people got stuff, and that made it so the money we earned was nowhere near the money we earned.
Right. We were essentially just getting a loan from everybody.
Yeah. One of the most popular tiers that we did was gift certificates.
Yeah.
Gift cards.
Yeah.
Which was such a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But people got stuff, you know, that was the point. We have a hard time of just saying, give us money.
Right.
So immediately, literally while you were talking to that customer about the Music Box seat sponsorship.
Sure.
And I don't know how they came about the cost for their seats.
How the Music Box did?
Yeah. I wonder if they took like, hey, we need this much money divided by the seats. That's what a seat costs.
I mean, I have no idea. Like, I don't understand a lot of what the Music Box is doing. Like, I don't think this was necessarily we need to sell this many seats or we can't renovate the theater. It's we were renovating the theater, and this is also an additional revenue stream that we can do.
But then if you project that into your life, is there anything that you would do that for?
No. There's plenty of things that I've, like, Patreons I fund or people I've donated money to, but it's never with I want to see my name in the credits, or I want you to shout me out on your podcast or whatever. And God bless people who do. God bless them. But it's never anything I've personally needed. I'm comfortable funding something I like and letting that be the end of it.
Speaking of podcast names,
Yes.
we'd been stagnant with Patreon growth for a while, but we finally have a new patron at the Say My Name tier who signed up after last week's episode.
Oh.
So just to catch them up, welcome, Nicholas Fenner. But anyway, as you guys are talking about it, I'm like, oh, to answer my question I posed to you that you did not answer back to me, Lago, I would sponsor a table.
That makes sense.
Depending if it was cost effective.
Yeah, I mean, with any sponsorship thing,
Yeah.
I don't have the liquidity to necessarily sponsor something like that.
Also, Lago has considerably less than 700 seats.
Right.
So I think it'd be an expensive ordeal that I would not be able to afford. Maybe a bar stool.
So one of the things that was surprising to me about the Music Box thing was that to the two people I talked to, and I don't know if this is actual fact so much as their recollection of the fact. When you sponsor the seat, that's it. There's not like an additional, like, you don't that isn't your seat.
That's impossible.
Right.
To
the
maintain.
logistics are impossible. Like that would be like giving you essentially for sponsoring the seat. Now you can see movies whenever you want at no fee or whatever. Like they couldn't handle that. That's not happening. But it also doesn't come with like a subscription to the Music Box or discounted tickets or anything else. It's like your name is on a seat. You may never sit in that seat. Like that may just be a thing that's in the theater and you know it's there. Great. So it's a weird thing to me on that level.
Also, I think that for fun, they shouldn't tell you which seat it is. You got to find it.
Well, and that was another thing. Like the two people I talked to weren't aware of whether or not you're getting a random seat. Are you picking a seat? Is there a row of seats that can be sponsored and everything else can't? I could have looked this up, but I didn't.
I would think that to make it fair, it would be random. Because otherwise, you got people who are like, I'm never going to pick the last seat in the fourth row from the back.
Oh.
So my thought was, and this is not a joke, sponsorship for shelves on our graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked about it right away.
Yes.
What we did not talk about, and I don't know that we're going to talk about here,
mm-hmm.
is pricing.
Right.
But both of these were done for basically renovation.
Yeah.
We could do that as well.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we desperately want to redo the lights in the store.
That's true.
We want to redo shelving and sidekicks.
Yeah.
There's definitely things that we keep putting off
mm-hmm.
because we don't have the money for it.
Right.
But if we open up shelf sponsorship,
mm-hmm.
so here is where, and this is, I'm talking to the listener now, here is where Dal and I were starting to disagree on if people get to pick their shelf or more generally their section.
I guess one thing I want to clarify real quick because we use these terms interchangeably. When you say shelf, you mean the entire...
Well, see, that's just it.
Well, okay,
we're breaking this down.
This is what I want. I want to, because I don't think we
shelf
talked about this.
Versus shelving unit.
Yeah, like a bookshelf is 3 feet wide by like 5.5 feet tall. A shelf is one individual unit within that bookshelf.
Yes. So I suggest we have sponsorships for the whole bookshelf and individual shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, different tiers.
Right.
Now, my feeling was one person per bookshelf, one person per shelf. You think it's okay to have multiple people per bookshelf.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that is...
You immediately said you would not do it if that were the case.
Yeah, I don't know that people would want to share it. Like, they want to have their bookshelf.
Mm-hmm. But
who would like, I would feel terrible if and again, this is all like, who cares about your name on a shelf, right? You're doing it in theory to help the business.
Yeah, I mean,
but also to take pride in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I think of it is it's not, this is Dal's horror section. This is just like the horror section and I'm sponsoring part of it. Like,
you know what? I appreciate you stepping up and taking the horror section right off the bat.
Sure.
We'll take that off the table then.
Okay.
Are you doing the bookshelf and the shelves?
We haven't talked price yet.
Okay. So here's what I just thought of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we'll do. It'll be an option. Do you want to sponsor the bookshelf by yourself, or do you want to sponsor a portion of the bookshelf?
Isn't that essentially what an individual shelf within the bookshelf is?
Nope, that's a whole different thing.
Okay. So someone could sponsor, I guess that's, just to discuss it, you seemed adamant that like having more than one name on the bookshelf would be
anathema.
I don't want to use that word, but yes. I mean, you were aghast that I would suggest that it would be multiple people, no big deal. But then in turn, if one person is sponsoring the entire bookshelf, but then 5 other people are sponsoring shelves within the bookshelf, isn't that kind of defeating the purpose?
No, it's like a pyramid scheme.
Okay.
There's the one name at the top, and then the people underneath that.
Okay. I'm glad that you've described it as a pyramid scheme because that puts my mind at ease now.
Okay, good.
Before I thought this sounded sketchy in some way, but now, no, pyramid scheme. Phew.
I guess
How did they build the pyramids?
We would do
Whips, river. Massive whips.
In a distant place and time, a pharaoh wandered. In his mind, he could see a kingdom I'll stop there.
Thank you.
So we don't get
We
sued.
don't get sued. People are going to have to sponsor bookshelves so we can
with
pay a
this,
lawsuit.
with this king they killed no reason, enslaved in a wish and a dream
Yeah, so
by a man who commanded their destiny.
I would be
There's
interested
no way out.
to hear what
There could be no doubt.
patrons think of this plan. Like,
Cry if you must, but die you will. The Valley of the Kings will still be built. I'm giving it back to you.
thanks for listening, everybody. Keep reading comics. I would be interested to know what the patrons think. Like, what sounds appealing to them? Not even talking prices, just logistics. Like, would you be okay with sponsoring a bookshelf with other people? Like, knowing that 10 people could sponsor the horror section. Would you be okay with that? Like, I'd rather just do the entire bookcase rather than individual shelves, because I think individual shelves, it's so thin, it's very hard. Like, just finding some way to do that in a way that's both visually enticing but also not in the way. But like the lip at the top, a lot of space up there. You can put a lot of little things up there without ever being in the way or ever getting clipped by books coming in or out or whatever.
So, what is the number of people that you would let sponsor a shelf?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on how big you'd want to make the, like, essentially what we could do is figure out, like, okay, what size would a little plaque be? Okay. How big would it be? What font would it be? Whatever.
Don't say little. That sounds like you're downplaying it to people.
Well, but
It'll be little, but
so there's a continuation to the sentence. How big would the plaque be? And then essentially how many little plaques could we do? But then giving people the option of saying, like, okay, for multiples of that, you could get a bigger plaque, because instead of getting one small thing for X, you could get 2 for 2X, and we would make it a bigger plaque. It would look bigger than the other ones.
I'm surprised that you'd be okay with that because of how different it would make the shelves look from each other.
There's money in it. I wouldn't do it for free.
I would assume maximum of 5 people per shelf then, because there's 5 shelves.
No, again, we're talking the lip at the top.
Right.
Oh, okay. So
5 people per bookshelf.
per bookshelf. Got it. Okay.
Because there are 5 shelves per bookshelf.
Okay. I feel like we
And-
could probably do more.
Well, and then I was going to say people have the option of sponsoring a whole shelf, which would be not 5 times the cost of a shelf, but considerably higher.
I guess instead of thinking about it in bookshelf, like, I'm just thinking you're sponsoring, you're getting your name on one of our bookshelves.
Yeah.
Because, like, you could sponsor the horror section, that's 1 bookshelf. You could sponsor the manga section, that's 6 bookshelves. You could sponsor the superhero section, that's like 4 bookshelves. Like, I don't want to have to break it down into, like, well, superhero costs this much and young adult costs this much. Just
No, I wouldn't do that either.
these
but
are,
it was
these
just,
are these are how these, like, we've got X many spots for superhero. We've got X many spots for young adult, whatever, rather than anything else.
would we give a discount for humor and drama
No discounts.
since they're such smaller shelves?
No discounts.
Well, you wouldn't want 5 people sponsoring a drama shelf when there's only 3 shelves.
Doesn't matter. Because, again, it's the lip at the top that we're talking about. That's the real estate. So it doesn't matter if it's got 5 shelves below it, 20 shelves below it, 1 shelf below it. You are paying for a spot in this section.
We have a lot of details to work out, it seems,
Yeah.
till we're on the same page for this. But the main page is the active sponsorship page. Would you do this? Not you, Dal. Would you, listener, would you do it? Would you care about sponsoring a shelf? And I'm sure that everyone was just saying, depends on what it costs.
Right. I mean, that kind of does matter.
Let's fine. Oops. I'm
No,
playing-
I mean,
playing
instead
with
of
the
us trying to
microphone.
figure it
Should we
out
do that?
right now, I guess throw it to other people. Like, what would you consider a good price? Like, what would a one-time fee? This isn't like a recurring subscription. You're paying one amount, and it's going to go up there. Essentially, our hope is as long as the store is open, but I'm not giving any guarantees beyond like a 5-year basis.
we need
Like, I don't
to
know.
figure out what the plaques cost as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be like, oh, the plaques cost $200 a piece.
So again, I'd want to hear from people, like, what do they consider a fair price? And then we can try and figure out, like, okay, well, what is the materials cost that we're comfortable with?
What
Well,
about
yeah.
a mounted foam core?
There you go.
Oh, goodness. I can tell you, having
How
had...
about a little button you can push where Patrick will have your name recorded? It'll be like the thanking the patrons part of the podcast.
Okay, yes, but the button is around your neck.
Oh, okay. No, I'll never get to push it then.
As someone who has had recent dealings with getting a pretty small plaque mounted on a decent-sized headstone,
Mhm.
it was so expensive.
Well, we're not part of that industry, so we don't have to nickel and dime.
Well,
people
we
as
are
much.
dying.
Oh, that's just the industry.
I mean, that's what you said, industry, so I was going with
I
that.
did.
Yeah. I didn't mean challengers exactly.
I know. Yeah, I would be interested very much to hear what people think of that idea, what they would consider a fair price, and what they would consider a fair execution of the concept.
Would you buy one?
You just said you weren't asking me.
No, I'm asking you now.
Oh, that depends on the price. My
How weird would that be?
image is already all over this store, so
Yeah, but your name isn't.
I don't. It's true. The one part there where I wrote Dallingers, I think, was part of the wall that got cut out. So that's not there anymore.
We specifically cut out that section because you wrote
That's
Dallingers.
true. Yeah.
Would people like it less or more if we weren't supporting our own thing?
What do you mean? Oh, like if we didn't.
I mean, to be fair, we never backed any of our Patreons.
No, and I think it'd be.
I'm sorry, I meant Kickstarters.
Yeah, it's super weird, I think, for us to sponsor shelves within our own store. It's our store.
This is a limited time offer, and if we don't sell them all,
Uh-huh.
then we just randomly pick the names
Uh-huh.
of the rest of them.
Yep. We're just going to go through our database on Shopify.
Oh,
and
it's
be like,
it's
here you
any
go.
name.
I think the most important thing is that we have to charge a different rate for being able to sponsor the best superhero burger. The Challenger Superhero Burger, presented by whomever. It's in competition with Midtown Comics.
Well, see, Dal, in the past,
Mhm.
we always had call to at least one day per summer have a hot dog cookout at the store.
Yeah. Hot dogs, so not burgers.
What if we have the best superhero burger contest?
With Midtown Comics?
No, with our patrons, with our customers.
Oh, yeah?
You know the way people have chili cook-offs.
So they'd have to cook out the burgers at the store?
No,
Oh, they just
but I
cook the
mean,
burgers
if
and bring them
they
in?
wanted them to like heat up or something, we could have a grill going.
Okay.
We do own a little, thanks to Giorgio Reyes, we do have a baseball grill.
A very small baseball grill.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
That's a whole separate thing, but
Sure.
why not have a superhero burger cook-off contest?
Sure. Take that, Gymshark.
And it'll also be, based on superhero look, what powers it has potentially.
Sure. Okay.
Obviously, we're the judges.
Sure.
We got to have somebody like, oh man, we could try to get James Van Osdell to do, because he does car con carne,
He does.
so he eats stuff everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
He could be a judge,
Sure.
and maybe one of the Nardinis.
Okay. Professional restaurateur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, here's one of the problems I have with this podcast.
Mhm.
I always have grand ideas that I'm like, we should do this, 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 and this.
Mhm.
And I have a list of them somewhere. And after we get done recording and I do all the editing and post it, and this I got to rush through tonight because I'm gone for the next couple of days.
Right.
And I got to see if I can't have it auto post while I'm gone.
Mhm.
And then I just forget about it and move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy in the brainstorming thing to be like, wouldn't it be great if we did this? But then when it's like, okay, what are the many, many steps to actually do that? It becomes like, this isn't worth it.
Pick should be a Saturday or a Sunday. Do you want it to be a Sunday because you're working?
No, I think it should be probably a Saturday, right? Doesn't it seem
Saturday
like more of a
afternoon.
cookout day?
We'll set up the grill in the garage
Uh-huh.
if we need it. Otherwise, people can just bring them ready-made. Have our panel of judges. Lago's closed on Sundays, so we'd have a better chance of getting a Nardini. But
We can do it Sunday then.
maybe, yeah, we'll work on that.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
There was a point in the last year where there were so many books coming out that we were excited for.
Mm-hmm.
So many books we could point to as they're coming out, and still had early issues of
Yep.
Jumping on Points.
Yep.
And
Just a few months ago.
we're not at that point right now. There's a ton of stuff coming.
Yes.
but it's
Oh my
nothing
God.
that we've read and can get people excited about in advance.
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, I read Absolute Power #1. DC put that up. And it's, I hate saying this because, people are going to FOC it, hopefully. It's fine. It's a DC event. You've read a million of them before. You'll probably read a million of them going forward. The thing in it that kind of drives me insane is that we just finished the fail-safe storyline that has been like 2 years in the making for Batman. And like a month later, it's like fail-safe's back. Just finish that story.
I mean,
There's
for
no...
the last 2 years, they've been pushing Amanda Waller, and I've never thought of Amanda Waller as the big bad.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, I think last week or the week before, the third major villain in this whole crossover hasn't been introduced yet in the storyline they're coming from in House of Brainiac.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, that's a preview we got, and it was okay. I'm glad I read it. I don't know that it changed the way that I was going to order or promote the book. Like, it's a DC crossover. I think you know if you want to read it or not.
I mean, I did want to read it, but I don't know about now.
Yeah, I definitely changed that equation for you. And yeah, what else did I read today? Scarlet #2. It's good. Scarlet #1 just came out. Yeah.
I read Teenage Ninja Turtles #1.
Yeah.
The alpha is out today, and it's a 10-page Donatello story amongst other stuff.
Yeah, they have multiple new Turtles books that are going to be coming out in the second half of this year as part of their relaunch. And so they are previewing a few of those, not just the Jason Aaron one.
But the Jason Aaron one is what I'm most excited for. And
it's definitely the one that they're putting all their muscle behind.
I thought that the Joel Jones art was pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in a prison. The first 4 issues each feature just one turtle. And I wonder, and I know this is going to sound hypocritical me saying it, I wonder if they shouldn't have done it like weekly or bi-weekly.
Oh, no.
Just because it's like the Fantastic Four series that came out.
Right.
They rushed those. They didn't just do those monthly. They weren't weekly or anything, but they definitely weren't just 4 weeks apart.
Well, I think at this point, if you could release a huge, heavily promoted Turtles event monthly, you're still way faster than the other heavily promoted huge Turtle series.
Yeah, somebody pointed out that Last Ronin, the first series, 5 issues, took 20 months.
Yep. And this one's on track. I mean, issue 1 came out February, I think.
They pushed it back to March.
Okay. I mean, it's supposed to come out at the end of 2023, and they were like, nope.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're in June right now, and 2 has not come out yet. So that's going great. But as I pointed out to somebody when they were kind of complaining about that in the store, it's like, they did the same thing for the first one, and they did it that way so that when the book is done, they can sell it forever. I saw that book at Target. So they clearly made the right decision in whatever delays they had to do.
A lot of people didn't realize there was 2 coming out, so they're still discovering it now.
Yeah, we've continuously sold issue 1 of Turtles Last Ronin Series 2 because we sell so many copies of that Last Ronin book. I think we're out of stock on it right now. We're ordering them like 3 at a time.
But I think Turtles #1 is a very different tone for a Turtles book, but I think that's what they're going for, because if they just did more of the same, you know what those are going to sell. But you put a Jason Aaron written and 4 major comic superstars doing the art for the first 4, then Raphael Albuquerque is your ongoing artist, that should appeal to a much higher number of regular comic readers.
Yeah, I mean, tonally for me, it didn't feel a million miles away from the last 50 issues of Turtles. It's less dense, but a lot of that just comes from essentially not being issue 101 to 150 of a series. By making it issue 1, they've taken everything that Jason Aaron doesn't want to deal with and given it its own book. So fans of that previous 150 issue series have Mutant Town or whatever to read later in the year, while people who just essentially like people who came to Transformers because they were familiar with the original cartoon and didn't want a huge, massive world of characters that they were confused by. They just wanted the basic iconography they grew up with. That's what Jason Aaron's doing. He's like, yes, Raphael, the Foot Clan, eventually the other three turtles. Like, that's it. That's the book. It is very straightforward in a way that the other stuff was not as straightforward because it had accumulated so much additional content and cast members and, consequences, all that stuff.
I do not know the plans for any of the upcoming Turtle books.
Mm-hmm.
I am disappointed that the new Turtles book isn't 5 Turtles.
Yeah, a real bummer that Jenica's not in it. But again, that's not what that outreach audience wants. As a Transformers fan, don't have to mention this, Transformers fan. As a Transformers fan, there were a bunch of characters that I loved from the IDW runs that I know that Dan has no interest in dealing with. Like, he didn't read that stuff. It's not his fandom. That's not what he's trying to get across. It's not the stuff he wants to use. So I had to kind of make my peace with, like, this book is not necessarily for my type of fandom, but I can find something in it to enjoy. I can approach it that way. The Turtles book is the same thing. Like, I came in through the Sophie Campbell stuff. I loved her cast. I loved what she was doing with the characters. I don't have an attachment to the Turtles beyond that as an adult. But that's not the book that Jason Aaron wants to do. It's not the book that IDW wants Jason Aaron to do. It's not the book that the potentially hundreds of thousands of people who would read a Turtles book that were not reading the IDW version before, it's not the one they want. So Jenica will be in a different book. She'll be in the Mutant Town book, or she'll be in the Night Watcher book, or whatever the other thing is called.
And she will always be, Dal, in our hearts.
Oh, that's where she is. That's nice.
Because our hearts are shelled off, just like a turtle.
Oh.
Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.